It's time for Coach's Corner on KCCR, presented by the South Dakota Office of Attorney General, Division of Consumer Protection. Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com is also brought to you by Bank West, Capital City Ford, Lincoln, and Toyota, Todd's Electric, Oahe Federal Credit Union, Shane's Pharmacy, Missouri River Dentistry, CHS River Plains, Edward Jones Financial, Ferding Electric, First Dakota National Bank, Gales Gas, and Lamb Motors. And now, your host for Coach's Corner, John Winkler.
And a good evening as we welcome you inside the KCCR studios for Coach's Corner. Once again, John Winkler with you. It is another year of Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. I want to thank the South Dakota Office Attorney General's Division of Consumer Protection for giving the sponsorship for this year for a Coach's Corner, as we will talk to coaches throughout every single Wednesday here on a KCCR over the next couple months, outside of the holidays and a couple of other times that we'll have it here on KCCR on those Wednesdays starting at 5:30. And of course, if any point during the week that you want to go back and listen, you can also go to YouTube at KCCR Sports, and they'll be playback anytime once 5:30 hits on those Wednesdays for that week's show. This week, we kick off our shows with Steve Steele of the Pierre Governor football team, Max Foth of the Staley County Buffaloes. We'll also talk Soleil-Beach volleyball with Randy Poole and Pierre tennis with Megan Bauk. Those four coaches will be joining us next. When we come back, we will start our conversation with head coach Steve Steele of the victorious Pierre Governors last Friday over the Aberdeen Central Golden Eagles in a wet and rainy day. We'll talk with him next. You're listening to Coach's Corner here on KCCR.
You just got a quote from a company and are now being billed for not choosing them. Many contracts have what's referred to as a contingency agreement. These typically state that if you don't go with them, you, after insurance has approved the repair work, will be charged a percentage of the job they quoted. Ask up front if they charge to provide an estimate. Never sign anything that you haven't fully read or understand. If you have any questions, reach out to the South Dakota Office of Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division at 800-300-1986.
Most of us already know that Gales Gas of Pierre is the place to call for propane. They offer an automatic fill plan so you never have to worry about running out of propane. They accept debit and credit payments or a budget payment plan to spread out the cost throughout the year so you never have surprises when you get your bill. For delivery, convenience, and great customer service, call Gales Gas at 224-5518. That's Gales Gas at 224-5518.
This fall, take some time to think about your future while the leaves make their way down to earth and the last sunset of summer leaves us with an autumn chill. It's time to grab the nearest foam finger and break out the face paint. Rush the stands with First Dakota National Bank and forget how to blink. Fall sports are back with jaw-dropping plays, an electric atmosphere, and epic scores. Make some noise with First Dakota National Bank. Open a new account online today at firstdakotanationalbank.com. Member FDIC.
It takes hard work to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than just sports. It also goes for your financial goals. You work hard for your money. You deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. Your local Edward Jones financial advisor can help. If your investments aren't getting you closer to the win, visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Pierre area Edward Jones office for a financial review. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined, so y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to. I'm going to answer with the same answer, so y'all can shoot if y'all please.
This is Coach's Corner on your home for the Pierre Governors, KCCR, and online at kccrradio.com.
Back here on Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Steve Steele, the Pierre Governors, as they get set to take on the Huron Tigers coming up this Friday. As we'll have coverage starting at 6:30 and kickoff at 7 o'clock on KCCR and on YouTube at KCCR Sports. Coaches, good talking to you again. Last Friday, did you catch up on the sleep after last Friday's game, or did the kids get you up at 6 a.m., or did the wife help you out and maybe let you sleep a little bit longer?
Yeah, I mean, she helped out. I mean, it's just, you're so used to getting up early, it's kind of hard to truly sleep in, but yeah, it felt like you spent probably half a Saturday trying to dry off. It almost felt like, just because you're just so used, you're just so full of water, from being out in the rain and everything. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a memorable game, I'll say that.
And we'll start talking about Huron in just a little bit, but what do you take? It's week one, so there's obviously going to be a lot of things that will need to be cleaned up. Every team after week one says it win or loss, but in a game like that, is it kind of hard to judge what really needs to be cleaned up, or was it still okay to kind of see things because the most likely won't see that type of field conditions the rest of the season?
Yeah, let's hope. That would be great if we didn't. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely challenging just because, the level of sharpness is going to be less when you have those conditions to play in. So you don't want to be overly critical of certain things. Certainly we felt our snaps and all of those things could be better. But again, when you're playing kind of in a swamp is what that became over the course of the game, that's going to be a challenge, So you try not to overreact to a lot of that, and I think the most important piece was our kids found a way to stay in it and find a way to come out with a win. There was a lot of change that we had to do. I mean, we were prepared to change a lot of stuff on special teams, and a lot of our offensive package went out the window. So I mean, they really did a good job handling the amount of change from the schedule to the game plan and everything else, and found a way to scrape through with a win.
In special teams, your thought process on sending Logan Whitty out to kick that field goal, a 29-yard field goal at the end of the first half with 1 second left. What was the thought process of why you sent him out there? Obviously, got the job done, and that's probably a reason why, because he can kick from that distance. But take us through that, especially in those field conditions, why you chose to kick the field goal.
Yeah, I mean, when we were down there, right before that, we'd gotten to fourth down. It would have been a little bit deeper of a kick, but not too deeper, still well within range, but it was kind of towards the middle of the field, which, again, the middle of the field was a giant mud puddle,
right.
So that was kind of when the defense got us the ball back. We had that third down and 10, from I think about the 20-yard line, and we thought about hey, do we want to go for it? And we said, well, let's try and get to the hash because we figured again we'd be well within his range. But if we could get to the hash where there was grass, then hopefully he can get good footing, and be able to not trip and fall and just tap it in. I mean, that was kind of legitimately the message of, hey, just get out there and tap it in, Happy. Give it a little tappy, and we'll get into halftime up 3-0. And we made sure, Lathan was our long snapper and Caleb being the holder. We spent that time out to make sure that we could ultra dry their hands, get a nice dry ball into the game so that hopefully we could get a snap, hold, and a tap and get up 3-0. And, they all did a great job, and that's what happened.
Now, going into this Friday's game against Huron, it's got to be kind of nice, too, because Huron looks at film and they don't really see what the Pierre Governors are capable of doing this year. They know from the past, but they don't know what this Pierre Governor team is able to do because, again, the gameplay was a little bit different on Friday, and now it will be back to where you want it to be on Friday with the turf field, 60-degree temperatures, and maybe it would be windy. That's going to be the only bad thing about Friday night compared to last Friday. You'll take it, but this Huron team really doesn't have good film on the 2025 Pierre Governors.
Yeah, I mean, you can still see the people. Obviously it's going to be the same people out on the field. And I mean, what obviously everything we have was a formation we have in. Those were plays we have in. You just don't get necessarily the full breadth of what we were planning to do. And so, I mean, there is an element that will have an advantage in that sense. More so on the offensive side, I would say. Defensively, you're able to do a little bit more in those conditions than the offensive would be. But that might be a little bit helpful, but at the end of the day, it's they want to get a week better, we want to get a week better, and hopefully our better's better than theirs.
And you got a chance to kind of watch the most of and almost all the Huron Yankton game on Friday because they started at 5:00. You guys didn't get started until 9:15, and you really weren't out for very long in warm-ups by the time that you had to go back in, so you got a chance to watch quite a bit. Obviously, you still end up watching film. What did you see from the Tigers that will go into Friday's game?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. We got to watch pretty much 2 full games before we played because we watched the full 5:00 game for the most part, and then we got to kind of bounce around watching the 7:00 games while we were waiting. But, they've got a really good passing attack. They've got a couple really good receivers. Their quarterback's back. He's got a good arm. He gets rid of the ball really quick. They moved the ball pretty well on Yankton. They had a lot of things that gave Yankton some fits. So hopefully we can adjust and find ways to troubleshoot those. And defensively, I mean, they did a pretty good job on Yankton for the most part. Towards the end of the game, might have got a little bit away, but they had a pick six before halftime that really swung it and kept it a really good game all the way through three quarters. They do a lot of different things on defense. I think Aberdeen was pretty much, this is what we're going to do. Huron's a little bit more creative in what they do in terms of moving people around.
Talking with Coach Steve Steele here, the Pierre Governors. They take on Huron on Friday. Coverage at 6:30 and a 7 o'clock kickoff on KCCR and on YouTube at KCCR Sports. Transition a little bit here before we go back to Huron and wrap things up here in a couple minutes. But let's talk about your weekends now. Friday night, obviously, you're very concerned about the Pierre Governor football team and making everything going. Saturday, you've got several guys that are, whether they're playing starting-wise or not, but there's a lot of guys that are playing college football that came from the Pierre Governors. And now Sunday afternoons and potentially sometimes Sunday nights or maybe Thursday nights or Monday nights, you got a guy that you're going to be paying attention to that's playing for the Seattle Seahawks. It is a weekend full of football that the Pierre Governors have their hand and have their history behind 3 straight days of the week for the most part for the next, 12 to 18 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun just following all of our kids that are playing everywhere. We got Kyle Albertson's playing his last year at Gallaudet over in D.C., he was an all-conference lineman last year, and they're ready to get underway this year. Trey Lewis had a heck of a game for USF out in Black Hills last weekend. He's been playing well, and Jack Merkwan's there with him. We got Spencer Easlands down at Wayne. We've got Spencer Schonsberg over in Mankato. We've obviously, everyone knows Jason's right now. He was in on a lot of the special teams at Nebraska, the number 2 on the depth chart, and Lincoln's the number 2 at Ohio State. I'm sure I'm missing guys too. Just those are the most recent. Cade's up at Northern. There we go. Yeah. Tie-ins down at Mount Marty. So there's all kinds of different things to follow, and it's really fun right now because almost all of them have live streams of some sort.
Well, and then Sunday, Gray Zabel will make his regular season debut with the Seattle Seahawks and the first ever Pierre Governor to play in the NFL, and will be the starter. And it's got to be a whirlwind of just for the kind of the country and some of the world to get to know Gray Zabel, because he's what you see on the social media posts and you see everything else. He's still Gray Zabel from when he was a Pierre Governor and went after he graduated. He's not changed at all. But you can see how much the teammates like him in those videos. You can see how much people are commenting, how much they love Gray Zabel. And that's not a shock to us at all, but it's still going to be pretty heartwarming and also just incredible to see all that stuff and how big he is after playing for the Pierre Governors, just 5 years ago.
Yeah, if you shake his hand or give him a hug, I think you'll find out how he changed. Right. He is an absolute monster right now. But yeah, it's a really cool thing for this community and, and for this football program, just because, again, it wasn't long ago he was over at Hollister Field playing, and funny is senior year of high school, they always want, the predominant question surrounding his recruitment is, can he be big enough to play at the highest level? There was Kansas State, there was Iowa State, there was some of those, Power 5 schools around, but they were all, I'm just not sure if he can get to where we need him to get to weight-wise. And it's hard. You never know that with a high school senior, but he did. He is definitely
absolutely did.
Every bit as big as you could possibly want. He's still as athletic as he ever was. And he is just a monster, but still the same, kind-hearted, goofy guy off the field. And I know he's got a lot of people here and up in Fargo that'll be rooting for him here this weekend.
It's gonna be awesome to see, and obviously a Seahawks. You are a diehard Lions fan, but it is as close to being not a diehard Seahawks fan, but a very big Seahawks fan right now, because we want to see Gray Zabel and the Seahawks. We would like for them to go 17-0 or 17-0 and go win a Super Bowl, and to see Gray Zabel be a part of that offensive line. But it's so much fun to have a stake in the game because of a guy that and a guy that you coach that'll be playing on Sundays.
Yeah, and in so many ways it means a lot more. You obviously you grow up with your teams. They're always your teams, but you don't know anyone on them. for the most part, So I mean, you're tied to them by your history and by your childhood, but when you actually have a vested interest, as you said, in a team, it makes you really care so much more about that team because you care about that person. And so I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, it's a Seahawks. We're Seahawks fans right now, and we'll still root for the Lions too. And if it comes down to it, then in a way you can't lose.
That is true. And talking with Coach Steve Steele, the Pierre Governors, again, they take on Huron on Friday. We'll wrap back up with talking about Huron. Biggest key here for the Pierre Governors on Friday to make sure that they get that win to go to 2-0.
Yeah, we've got to be able to diversify on offense. Obviously we were unable to do so last Friday, not entirely by the fault of anybody other than maybe Mother Nature. So hopefully we can be a lot more balanced, and be able to do more than kind of our vanilla package, which is what we had to do on Friday. And defensively, again, they've got to be able to handle the passing attack. I don't know and if that's going to be pressure or if that's going to be, being coverage, and shoring up that back end. That's going to be the key to stopping Huron.
Well, Coach, hey, appreciate the time. As always, good talking to you. First one of the year, and looking forward to the next several weeks of being able to talk here on Coach's Corner. And good luck Friday. We'll talk to you in the pregame.
Sounds good. Thanks, John.
That's head coach Steve Steele, the Pierre Governors, back with more Coach's Corner after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. kccrradio.com.
You just got a quote from a company and are now being billed for not choosing them. Many contracts have what's referred to as a contingency agreement. These typically state that if you don't go with them, you, after insurance has approved the repair work, will be charged a percentage of the job they quoted. Ask up front if they charge to provide an estimate. Never sign anything that you haven't fully read or understand. If you have any questions, reach out to the South Dakota Office of Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division at 800-300-1986.
Did you know it is important for your child to see the dentist at the time their first tooth erupt? A healthy smile begins at birth, and there are many variables, from healthy eating habits to good oral hygiene and routine dental care. Hi, I am Dr. Michelle Hofer. At Missouri River Dentistry, we enjoy working with people of all ages. Dentistry is our profession, but people are our focus. I invite families to come experience an office that uses the latest techniques and equipment to be sure you receive that healthy and happy smile. To schedule your appointments for your family, call us at 223-2021. Kids love us, parents trust us.
Capital City Ford Lincoln Toyota is serving the central South Dakota community and beyond with a great selection of used vehicles. Local trades and program vehicles are available. New Toyotas and new Fords are arriving and selling before they even hit the lot. So don't wait. Stop in and find out what's coming. If you've been thinking about ordering a new Ford, stop in and sit down with one of our sales specialists today. Capital City Ford Lincoln Toyota at 518 East Sioux Avenue in Pierre. Call 605-224-7378 and visit CapitalCityFordToyota.com.
Hey you. Are you at a job that is fulfilling, has good benefits to support you or a family today, and retirement goes down the road? If you just said no, listen up. CHS River Plains is hiring operations personnel, drivers, and custom applicators at several locations. These come with a knockout affordable benefit package for you and the whole family. Apply to a job with CHS River Plains and up your benefits straight up. To apply, visit us online at chsriverplains.com or stop in at one of our locations. CHS is an equal opportunity employer.
That's a clown question, bro.
You're listening to Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Max Foth of the Stanley County Buffaloes, who got to play in that first game on that brand new turf on Friday against Parkson. They will play again this Friday, which will be senior night, parent night, against Leola Frederick, and then the following week will be their homecoming game against Redfield, and we'll talk more about those three home games here in just a little bit. But Coach, you had to wait a little while to get that game in against Parks, and being able to finally christen that new turf, playing for the first time. Did it feel kind of like, of course, something like this would happen to make you kind of wait a little bit longer to finally kick off on that turf field?
Yeah, it was one of those things that, like I told the kids, we can only control what we can control, and if I could control the weather, I sure wouldn't be teaching and coaching, I'll tell you that. So we just had to wait patiently, and the refs did a great job of keeping everybody organized and on the clock and monitoring the lightning strikes and all that stuff. And honestly, we were just glad that Parkston was as gung-ho to play as we were. I talked to their coach, Coach Grave, before the game started, and he said, look, man, I don't care how late it goes. He's like, we're not leaving without playing. And I was like, yeah, I'm ready too. let's get this game going. So, yeah, definitely not the start we wanted weather-wise or game-wise on our new home field, but at the same time, it's good to have a little bit of adversity and learn to battle through it.
You know, and obviously you don't want to use it as an excuse by any means, but did you feel like the weather delay hurt you guys a little bit? Did it feel like did you feel like the guys were maybe flat because of that, or was there, you know, what kind of, was the weather any kind of factor at all when you started watching film to think, you know, and maybe make you say that our guys weren't maybe ready to go because of the weather?
No, I think our guys played well. I think they responded well as far as the weather goes, especially defensively. We looked great at times throughout the night. But the hardest part was it was just the weather in general. You know, when you're a team like us that we take a lot of concepts from the air raid, and we got the air raid system as far as how we like to play with tempo and speed and space and use some of our great athletes in all their different ways, it makes some of that stuff kind of a moot point when you're dealing with the weather as much as we were dealing with the weather. You know, it was just so hard just to even secure the snap, let alone, you know, drop back, read a coverage, and rifle a pass and try to make another catch. And so it put a lot of training wheels on our offense, and it didn't allow us to get going as fast as we did against Hill City. So, you know, that weather, it was, like I said, it was some adversity for everybody, and it was tough to play against a team that is so built for the weather, like Parkston is with their double tight, double wing. You know, they're happy running it for 3.5 yards to carry, whether it's 75 and sunny or it's like how we played on Friday night. So it was just kind of if the storm would have passed a little earlier, or if we'd have waited a little bit longer, it might have been a little bit different of a story. Not saying we'd have won the game outright by any means, but I definitely feel like we would have played better on the offensive side.
Well, now the weather is looking good for Friday's game against Leola Frederick, and a chance to then really kind of showcase this offense on that new turf field. And you know, obviously there's many reasons to be happy and to be excited about playing on a turf field, but the Stanley County Buffalo team this year has so much excitement to play on a turf field like that. So now, you know, with the weather, unless things change, we live in South Dakota, it can change in the next 10 minutes from what the forecast says. But right now, looking like it's going to be a nice night, which can, like I said, can really showcase this offense coming up Friday night.
Right, yeah, that's exactly it. If you take a look at the numbers that we put up against Hill City, at least offensively, you see the potential is there as far as if that's our baseline and we're going to play better as the season goes on. Like, this offense has got a really good chance to be one of the better ones in our class. You know, obviously we've got a lot of fixing to do, and we got a lot of learning to do, a lot of coaching, a lot of different ways we got to attack this thing. But like I said, you know, the proof is in the pudding as far as that first game out goes. You know, when we have Weston Prince go 20 of 28 for 372 yards and 3 touchdowns, you know, it's definitely high flying at moments. So, you know, like you said, hopefully we get a nice clear forecast and we can spread some teams out and throw this ball around a little bit.
So now Leola Frederick, your opponent coming up on Friday, they gave up 22 points against Redfield. They won 54-22. Redfield is your next week's opponent, but you're not worried about them right now. Britton Hecla, they lost 36-6. So you got a chance to, watching film, to see some of the things they did really well and some of the things that another team did really well against them. What do you take away from the film, and what do you expect from Leola Frederick on Friday?
Yeah, Leola, they do a good job. They have a really good identity. They know who they are. You know, they know they're going to try to out-physical you at the line of scrimmage. You know, they're going to get in their wishbone offense. They're going to get in their double wing offense and really try to get downhill on you. And then when you match that physicality and you match that intensity, they have the athletes to do somewhat of the same stuff that we do as far as some of the spread game is concerned. So they certainly give you a lot to prepare for. But us coaches feel like we've got a great plan in place, and we've got a really senior-led defensive secondary to be able to really help us out in some of that coverage stuff. And the biggest key is to be, you know, trying to get our young defensive line in the right spots and matching their physicality early. And I think they did a great job of that against Parkston. You know, that's the tough part about, you know, when you lose the game 40-0, people look at the scoreboard and think that you just got drilled. Well, if you dig into the numbers, you can see that our defense only allowed 22 points against Parkston. our defense played so much better. And Parkston got a punt return for a touchdown, a fumble recovery for a touchdown. They had a safety in there. So there's a bunch of points that our defense didn't give up. So I feel like our defense has really come a long way since the beginning of the season, and I'm excited for those kids to go out and show what they got on Friday night.
This is kind of a tongue-in-cheek question right now, but do you feel like you're ready for Redfield as well? And potentially after the next week, Britton Hekla, even though they're not on your schedule, because you're going to see a lot of Redfield and Britton Hekla in film watching this week and next week.
Yeah, I told Britton Hekla's coach last year at the All-State meeting, I told him, I was like, hey, I got to buy you popcorn and pop or something here at the Dome because, it seemed like whoever we were playing, they played them the week before. So they were always Johnny on the spot with the film, so it was nice of them to get it all sorted out and get ready to go. And yeah, they did a great job. They got it to us. And, yeah, my film watching has changed slightly with the young family that I have at home. So I now need to get it done immediately Saturday morning before everybody wakes up because then it's full-time dad duty until Sunday morning again.
And that probably comes a lot earlier than what, well, I wouldn't say that what you expect, but it probably comes pretty early Saturday morning that the family starts to wake up, doesn't it?
Oh, man, yeah. I don't even need an alarm clock anymore. My oldest, she is up with bells on at about 6:30 is about the latest she sleeps in. So if I want to get anything done, it's before then. So set those alarms and get up and get moving.
Well, now back to football here real quick, too, with Loyola Frederick this Friday, Redfield next Friday. The last two home games already of the season, in the regular season. Obviously, if you get inside the top 8, or depending on how things fall in the playoffs, you could still host a game somewhere along the way. But the only 2 guaranteed home games you have left of the 8-game season. So how special are these games? Every football game is special because you get so few of them compared to other sports. But how special are these next 2 home games going to be for this, especially for this senior class? Because, you're not guaranteed to play at home after next week, Friday. And we're talking about that, going to be September 12th in their last home game of the season. How special are these moments that the seniors need to make sure they soak in?
Yeah, it's definitely important, and especially when you have a class of seniors that have played so much football and done so many good things for Stanley County as a football team and as a school. It's important to them to really soak in these moments and really enjoy them. And like I said, I think this is one of the most pivotal parts of our season right now is because, if we start playing as good as I think we can, all of a sudden we turn the tide. 1-2 feels a lot different than 0-3 does, and certainly 2-2 feels better than, the 1-3 or the 0-4. So it's one of those things that, like you said, just because there's such few games in the football season, we got to really turn it on and push those chips to the middle and try to find a way to win some of these games here and start our own streak going.
All right, well, we'll wrap things up here with the final question. As I always ask, biggest key for the Stanley County Buffaloes to get a win against Loyola Frederick on Friday?
All right, so the first thing I want to say is just, farmers, I know we need the rain. Everybody always loves the rain, so maybe it can rain Saturday instead of Friday, so let's try to dodge the weather bugs here. I think if we got clear skies and it's good weather for us, it bodes well for our football team. That's going to help us. But as far as the stuff that we can control, it all comes down to taking care of the football. You look at these last couple games we've had, and we've lost some fumbles. We've had some interceptions. We've turned the ball over too many times. And then the other thing is we haven't forced enough turnovers. So if we look and really dig in and really try to win the turnover margin on Friday night, I think with our offense and how we can move the football, I think it'll really help us as far as the win-loss column goes.
Well, Coach, hey, I appreciate the time. It is that was getting the clear skies is a big key to winning a football game on Friday. That's a new one. I've never had anybody say that one before. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes to it, but it makes me laugh. Clear skies on Friday, and that's a good omen for Stanley County.
That's what's so funny too is like for the longest time in my career, I've been power run game and hard play action and everything else, and we've been able to play through snowstorms and all that other stuff. But with this team that I have now and all the athletes and all the space that we have, and we can really run and really catch, it's one of those things that, I had to adjust as a coach too. So it's one of those deals that we're all doing it together. We're all learning together. And yeah, the model definitely fits our team. And we got to get better at it in the rain. So either give us more time to practice in the rain or let's dodge some of that rain.
I would agree. And unfortunately, at South Dakota, you probably won't have too many more practices in the rain this year, which, good or bad, that is probably, it just is what it is. But, Coach, hey, I appreciate the time as always. It is fun talking to you. Enjoy it, and good luck Friday, and we'll talk to you next week.
You bet. Sounds good.
That is head coach Maxwell of the Stanley County Buffaloes. We return with more Coaches Corner after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. kccrradio.com.
You just got a quote from a company and are now being billed for not choosing them. Many contracts have what's referred to as a contingency agreement. These typically state that if you don't go with them, you, after insurance has approved the repair work, will be charged a percentage of the job they quoted. Ask up front if they charge to provide an estimate. Never sign anything that you haven't fully read or understand. If you have any questions, reach out to the South Dakota Office of Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division at 800-300-1986.
Score big on your next vehicle purchase with Lamb Motor Company in Oneida and Gettysburg, Lamb Chevrolet and Implement in Oneida, and Lamb Auto Sales in Pierre. Check out their large selection of new and pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs at any one of their locations, or go online to lambmotor.com. That's LAMBMOTOR.com. Or give them a call today at 800-952-2222. Lamb Motor Company of Oneida and Gettysburg, Lamb Chevrolet and Implement in Oneida, and Lamb Auto Sales in Pierre.
As community bankers, BankWest employees are deeply committed to supporting local causes, growing the local economy, and creating local opportunities. At a time when you can bank anywhere, we hope you choose BankWest. We'll be your financial partner for the long haul, helping you and your community achieve financial success. BankWest. Convenient, connected, committed. Member FDIC.
Building a home. It's the biggest investment most of us make in a lifetime. Not to mention, it's a decision that, well, you pretty much live with day and night. The quality of the workmanship stares back at you like a reflection. It also affects the value of your investment. Choosing the right contractor is critical. Kruger Contracting is that contractor. Call 222-2523. Quality workmanship and materials completed on time. Kruger Contracting. In a word, quality. Call 222-2523.
You're listening to Coach's Corner on Central South Dakota's sports leader, KCCR.
You like that? You like that?
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Randy Poole of the Solebu's Charger volleyball team, who has been busy to start the season with a couple of games, with a game last week and then the tournament, the YTC tournament, and then playing Faulkton on Tuesday. Coach, first let's talk about, let's go back to the Jones County game, the first game of the season. You guys were up 2-0, ended up going to 5 sets and still got that win. What was the most impressive thing about that 5-set win to start off the season?
Well, one of the things with this year's team, they struggled a lot last year, and we talk about this year is going to be a revitalizing year, and we're going to try to eliminate mistakes. This year's team has all the pieces. They just need to learn how to win. And, they got a little bit complacent, I think, after they went up 2-0. And Jones County is a really solid volleyball team. And she made some adjustments, and we didn't react to the adjustments that we were trying to make. And so when it came down to that fifth set, I just challenged them. And I said, okay, girls, this is where you would last year. You'd fold. And, you'd be complete. You'd just be fine to get on the bus and go home, losing 2 sets to 3. And so I challenged them, and they responded. We jumped out. I think we were up 7-1, and Jones County made a nice little run. And, volleyball's a game of whoever makes the least amount of mistakes is usually gonna come out on top. And in that fifth set, we made the least amount of mistakes. So, just basically just challenged them. That's what I did.
As we talk here with Randy Poole, the Sully Beach Chargers, what a big first win that was. And then you go to the YTC tournament, you go 1-2. What was one thing that you took away? Because you played pretty fast and furious. You had a chance to have a break after that second game, but you played 3 matches pretty quick. What was kind of the takeaway from the YTC tournament this past weekend?
Well, we started out with North Central, and they're another very solid volleyball team, good volleyball team. We had that early morning sleepy thing going on when we started that first game. Second game, I thought we played really well. I think we got beat 21-25. And so, we started to come around. And then we had Gettysburg the second game immediately following. And I think it was beneficial for us because, we were warmed up and we were ready to go. And it was their first time on the court. And, the scores were, I think both of them were 25-18, and the games really weren't that close. We pretty much dominated both sets. Then we had a chance to sit, and then we played McIntosh. And again, as I said earlier, the team that makes the least amount of mistakes is usually going to come out on top. And the first set, I think it was 25-23, we win. And then we just kind of got back on our heels and got away from the things we were doing that we were successful at. And we got beat 25-22 maybe. And so that third set, I issued the challenge again, and they just came out and they were flat, and we just compounded mistake after mistake, and we were trying to substitute and find right combinations, and we couldn't get it put together, and I think it was 25-16. But overall, we practiced yesterday, and I told them, I said, we're only 2 matches, two days into this season. And, we set a goal at the beginning of the season that we wanted to try to get to 500. And I feel very good that we're going to get there, or maybe a little bit better. It's just a thing. They have to learn how to win. And I think that's going to come.
Well, and you mentioned, too, about the opportunity to try and get some different pieces, different rotation. There's a lot of girls on this squad this year. It's a good number of girls, and there's quite a few seniors for this Sully Beach Charger group.
Yeah, I think there's 7 seniors. One of my senior girls who would be the setter on this team got hurt in basketball last year and tore everything you could tear in her knee. Had surgery in March, so she's not playing. So we had to bring up our JV setter and Allie Bueller, and she's doing a really, really nice job for us. But yeah, the senior leadership is good. I've got some juniors that I'm trying to work in to the rotation. I could pretty much play 8-9 girls. At different rotational spots and not have to worry about things.
Well, and you start on the road, then you get to be at home against Faulkton. You have Miller coming up on Thursday. Then you'll be at home again next week against Ipswich. For these girls, 2-2 after the weekend, the first weekend of the season, then getting 3 home games. How nice is that to maybe be on the road first and then now get a chance to be at home over the course of 3 straight matches?
Yeah, it's going to be nice to play in our own gym. We have a very nice following. We had good support at both Jones County and up at Roscoe the other day. One of the things that the girls brought up at the beginning of the season was, I said, what are some things we want to do differently? And they said, how do we get people to come want to watch us play volleyball? They said our grandmas and grandpas and moms and dads and brothers and sisters, come because they have to. But how do we get people excited? And I just looked at them and I said, you got to win. You start playing well, start winning, the community is going to get behind you. Sully Buttes has a tradition where, winning is an important thing. they're gonna get to the point where they're gonna start winning. And I told them last night, I said, here's a chance for you to get the word out to people that, hey, we're a pretty good volleyball team. I think they won 4 matches last year, and we're halfway to that 4 already. So I said, just go play hard, compete hard, and you'll be fine. Falcon's just another volleyball team. They're not a Warner or Northwestern or Chester or an Arlington. They're just another volleyball team. So we'll see what happens tonight. It's parents' night, so that's always an extra motivator for them. So we'll see how tonight goes. But yeah, anytime you can play at home, it's a good thing.
Obviously you're not focused on Miller till you get through Faulkton, but Miller, and especially in a Class A team, once you play them once, you don't have to worry about them the rest of the time. But they're a perennial, powerful team and make the state tournament. So it's got to be a good, early season baseline too to say, okay, regardless of what these other 5 teams that we've played so far have been, Miller's going to be good. So it's probably a good litmus test to kind of see how well you can compete against a really good Class A team, and for how the rest of the season isn't necessarily how it's going to go, but one that you can say, hey, this is kind of our baseline right now. We got to build from where we're at and to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Boyer does a wonderful job over at Miller. When I was in my first stint as volleyball coach, we had some really good matches, and back in that first stint, I probably got the best of her more times than she did me. But yeah, we have them, and then we also have Winter on our schedule, and I think Miller and Winter went 5 sets. So, that's going to be a good measuring point for us, both those teams. But I had Coach DeBoyer come do a camp for me this summer, and when we were done, he and I stood and talked, and she was very excited and very complimentary about the girls that I was going to have this year. And she said, I'm excited to get the opportunity to play you guys this year. So coming from her, that's a very big, large compliment. And, we're just going to go compete. Whatever happens, happens.
Again, talking with Coach Randy Poole of the Sully Bees Chargers as they take on Faulkton Miller this week, and then we have Ipswich at home next week, Tuesday, before getting back on the road, and Winter coming up as well on the road. And the Charger volleyball throughout the season on Country 95.3 and on YouTube at Country 95.3 Sports with DT Meyer on the call. Coach, before I let you go, final question here. Biggest key, I know we're still early in the season, but biggest key here for the next couple of weeks for the Sully Bees Chargers to rack up some wins, but to set them up to be successful down the stretch of the season?
Just start to be more consistent, less mistakes. We're attacking the ball very well. If 2 areas that we need to probably really focus on are our serve receive. We struggle at times, and serving. We'll go a stretch where we'll get 15 in a row over the net, and then all of a sudden we get five in the net or 5 out of bounds. So those 2 areas, if we can clean some things up and get some consistency with those 2 areas, and the other ones, stay status quo. I think we're going to start to maybe impress some people and make them want to come sit in the gym and watch these girls play.
Well, Coach, I appreciate the time. It was good talking to you. We'll be doing this a couple more times at least before the end of the regular season. Appreciate it. Good luck here as the season continues to kind of get more into the full swing, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. That is head coach Randy Poole of the Sully Bees Chargers. We'll return with more Coaches Corner after this here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com.
You just got a quote from a company and are now being billed for not choosing them. Many contracts have what's referred to as a contingency agreement. These typically state that if you don't go with them, you, after insurance has approved the repair work, will be charged a percentage of the job they quoted. Ask up front if they charge to provide an estimate. Never sign anything that you haven't fully read or understand. If you have any questions, reach out to the South Dakota Office of Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division at 800-300-1986.
People helping people.
Have you ever wondered what the benefits are of becoming a Owyhee Federal Credit Union member? At Owyhee Federal Credit Union, we reinvest profits in you. We do this in the form of lower interest rates, higher dividends, and low to no fees. So come check us out or come in at 221 East Pleasant Drive in Pierre, because at Owyhee Federal Credit Union, we treat our members like they own the place because, well, they do.
Owyhee Federal Credit Union.
At Shane's Pharmacy, your healthcare is important, and Shane wants to be the pharmacist to take care of you. Shane's Pharmacy will make sure your prescriptions are filled in a timely manner, they will answer your questions, and they will even deliver to your home or office. Call 223-9200. Shane's Pharmacy, the pharmacy you know and trust. The number again is 223-9200. Shane's Pharmacy in Fort Pierre, proud to support high school athletics.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now I'm playing for real.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good. What play should I call now? Maybe corner three.
He's hot. He is hot. Keep feeding that guy.
Now back to Coach's Corner with KCCR award-winning sports director John Winkler.
As we welcome you back to Coach's Corner here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. Joining me is Coach Megan Balk of the Pierre Governor tennis team as they get set for a weekend trip out to Mitchell Friday and then finishing out to the Sioux Falls area on Saturday. Coach, it's good talking to you. Before we get to this weekend's set of matches, let's go back to the first part of this season here. You had several duels, 4 duels at Griffin Park and Pierre, and then you had a couple tournaments with another duel in there as well. But seeing these tournaments early on, and especially the Madison tournament where you pretty much had all of Class A, I think every team from Class A was there, you kind of got a good feel for the states at the end of August. How nice was that to kind of see where some of these girls are at and what they need to do to improve their seeding or improve at the end of the season? How nice was it to see pretty much the entire state of that weekend?
Yeah, we really enjoy that tournament just for that simple fact. I could just kind of see how we stack up at the beginning towards the early part of our season here. So that was really nice. I think we finished 6th overall. And so it just gives us a look at, ways we can improve going forward and see how we can, kind of stack up going forward then. So we saw some really good competition. We also saw some areas of improvement, and overall, the girls played really well, but there's, of course, those things that stand out that we can continue to work on. So, yeah, like you said, it's good to see where we stack up early and then see where we need to go from there.
And what was one of those things that maybe was, that was really good that you saw from those tournaments, but, you mentioned, too, some of the things that you need to work on as well. What's kind of the one of those things on the good and the bad or I wouldn't even say the bad, but the things that are going well, but the things that need to improve? What's kind of the ones that stick out the most?
Yeah, so things going well so far. I really liked a lot of our singles play. We have some really smart players that are just, playing singles really well, have some good ground strokes, and good instincts as far as strategies. Some things to improve on overall is just our doubles game. We continue to work on strategies for that and continue to work on our net play and being more aggressive that way and taking those balls as at the net instead of waiting for the point to progress from the backcourt. So that's one thing we're going to really work on is just being more aggressive with doubles. And then just our mental stamina. I think a lot of the girls they are very capable players, but I think sometimes the pressure of the moment can get to them. So that's another thing we're going to work on is just working through those tough moments, working through when you're not having the best day, when your shots aren't working like they usually work for you, and just kind of working through that. What are some things you can go back to and fight through and work through those days that things aren't just going your way. So just the mental game and the doubles, those are the main things we're going to really spend some good time on here going forward.
Talking with Coach Megan Balk of the Pierre Governor tennis team, who will travel to Mitchell on Friday and then into the Sioux Falls area on Saturday. One of the things, you had that first weekend at Griffin Park, which was great to be able to open at home. You had 4 different duels, and then you've had just one duel since then against Brandon Valley, with most of these being tournaments. Now, as a coach, it's going to be kind of nice to now go into more of the dual mindset. Maybe it's not. Maybe you have to go to too many different places. But now the duels come in. What does that do for you as a coach to maybe see things a little bit better? Maybe it makes it a little bit harder to see things, because you have to go to so many different courts at a time. But is it nice to be able to move into some duels now?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we like having those tournaments at the beginning just to kind of give everybody, lots of different experience, play lots of different schools, and now to kind of be focused on, taking on one school at a time. It's kind of a nice change of pace for this kind of middle of the season here. So it's nice to be able to just focus one school at a time, one match at a time, really, instead of looking forward to where you're going to be at the bracket. It kind of just it lessens your ability to look forward and just focus on the here and now, and just playing, this one match at a time. So I think those tournaments at the beginning, they give us a good sense of where we are, and now we're able to kind of hone in and really just focus one match, one duel at a time, and go from there and just continue to improve, a little more, with a little more fixed mindset as far as, improving just one thing at a time, one match at a time.
Again, talking with Coach Megan Balk, and as they go to Mitchell to face Jefferson and Mitchell, and then Harrisburg and Sioux Falls Christian on Saturday in the Sioux Falls area. Let's first talk about this Mitchell-Jefferson squad. You're looking at, and obviously as the Pierre Governors do, there's a lot of Double-A teams that you face, especially in the ESD. You look at Huron and the Pierre Governors, the only two Class A teams that aren't in the that are in the ESD that are in Double-A. So you have to face a lot of Double-A teams, and of course, just getting the competition against the Sioux Falls schools and everything else. What do you expect from these two schools going into Friday?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough weekend. We've got some really tough teams that we're going to be facing here as we travel both to Mitchell and then on to Sioux Falls. Mitchell's always really solid. They're kind of in a little bit of a rebuilding year, so they've got some fresh faces to varsity, but they're a deep team, and they've built quite a dynasty over there. So that'll be tough. Jefferson's in the same boat. They've got some good players, and just like all the Sioux Falls Metro teams, they've got those advantages that we don't always have here in Central South Dakota as far as being able to play year-round and have access to pros and things like that. So their girls are always tough, but they're, like I tell the girls, anyone is beatable on any day, and we're just out there to play good tennis and continue to improve. And so however the scorecards end up being at the end of the match, I'm less concerned about, are we out there improving? Are we implementing the strategies we've been working on in practice? And are we playing our best tennis? And are we just continuing to get better and continue to develop as players? So regardless of how the matches may end up, I just want to see improvement and see the girls, doing the very best that they can.
And you mentioned a little while ago too about improving the mental game, but just having a good mental game, and I gotta feel like tennis, and on someone that did not play tennis competitively, and I would get smoked by everybody if I tried to play a match of tennis. But I feel like if you're mentally getting better as the year goes on, it is a world of difference. Obviously every sport, if you're improving, you're going to be better at the end of the season. But I feel like tennis can be such a growth of a season that can really improve, and you can wear down opponents almost, or in matches and everything. That the result of these weekends aren't the result that you might see at the end of the season. They can be much better.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, tennis, there's so much room for growth, not only, in the physical aspect, but in the mental aspect. And every day's different. You might play a girl that you just played the previous weekend, and the outcome might be totally different this weekend. The weather's different. Everyone's having either their worst day or their best day or some day in between. And you just have to have confidence in your strokes, confidence in yourself, and not let whatever else is going on affect what's happening. And tennis is such a mental game too, that you're rarely playing your best, but can you still go in and do what you need to do and fall back on the things that you've worked on and worked hard on in practice in order to go out and still put forth your best effort on that particular day. And that changes for everybody day to day. So there's a lot of variety in how well everyone's going to perform on any given time. So, lots of room for mental improvement, and I'm looking forward, though, to seeing the girls continue to grow in that and continue to do well in that aspect.
And again, as we talk with Megan Balk here of the Pierre tennis team, before we wrap things up, at the end of the month, the Pierre Governors will be hosting St. Thomas More here for a duel at Griffin Park. But next week, Tuesday, Aberdeen Roncalli and Rapid City Central will be in town. So a chance to, after that first weekend of being at home, the first chance here in September that the Governors get to be at home. How nice is it going to be able to be back on those home courts next Tuesday for a couple duels?
Yeah, we love getting to play at home. It's a whole different, outlook on, our attitude about everything. It's just kind of like a sigh of relief, a breath of fresh air to be able to be back in Griffin and, to have that home court advantage is really nice. So, we're looking forward to that and looking forward to hosting them and then having St. Thomas More in a couple weeks. So.
All right, we'll wrap things up here. Final question, with the four duels that are coming up this weekend, biggest key for the Governors to have success over those four duels and pick up wins individually, singles, doubles-wise, what's the biggest key to make that happen?
Our biggest thing going in this weekend is going to just be confidence. We can hang with some of the top teams in the state, and the girls just need to believe that about themselves. A lot of times we go into these matches, thinking like, they play year round and they have all these access to pros and everything like that. Like, I don't stand a chance. Well, yes, you do, because we've put in the work. We've been playing hard. We've been working hard in the off season. And so they just need to believe that about themselves and they'll do just great.
Well, Coach, hey, appreciate the time. It's good talking to you again, and we'll talk to you again soon as we get farther along in the season.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That is head coach Megan Bauck of the Pierre Governor Tennis Team. Back with more Coaches Corner after this on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. KCCR Radio.
You just got a quote from a company and are now being billed for not choosing them. Many contracts have what's referred to as a contingency agreement. These typically state that if you don't go with them, you, after insurance has approved the repair work, will be charged a percentage of the job they quoted. Ask up front if they charge to provide an estimate. Never sign anything that you haven't fully read or understand. If you have any questions, reach out to the South Dakota Office of Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division at 800-300-1986.
No one likes to have electrical problems, but when they happen, call Todd's Electric at 223-2518. With over 30 years of experience, Todd's Electric can handle any type of electrical problem, whether it's residential, commercial, or agriculture. Their knowledgeable staff knows and understands the importance of your home, business, or ag facility and are prepared to help. That number again is 223-2518. Todd's Electric Service, serving the Pierre-Fort Pierre area. Todd's Electric Service, the line to power.
Let me talk to you. You're listening to Coach's Corner on Central South Dakota's sports leader, KCCR.
Yeah. We welcome you back to the KCCR studios one final time here on our first edition of Coach's Corner. Thank you so much for joining me and listening to our coaches. And we want to thank our coaches and head coach Steve Steele, as well as Max Foth, Randy Poole, and Megan Bauck for joining us here this evening for Coach's Corner, as we'll have it next week, Wednesday, starting at 5:30 here on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com. And, of course, if you missed any of those segments and want to go back or re-listen to one of those segments, head over to YouTube at KCCR Sports. There is where you can find the archived shows and, of course, all the games that we have had on KCCR Sports and, of course, Capital City Rock Sports and Country 95.3 Sports. All of that archived there on those YouTube pages. So make sure you watch any game. You can watch last Friday's football game for the Pierre Governors when they take on Huron coming up this Friday, with coverage starting at 6:30 and a 7 o'clock kickoff. Tomorrow we've got Pierre Governor Volleyball here on KCCR, as that'll be a 6 o'clock coverage, 6:30 for first serve. It'll be followed by the Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, first game of the regular season of the NFL season, and that will join that in progress somewhere in the first half between the Cowboys and Eagles. Friday, of course, and again, it is going to be Pierre and Huron. Then Saturday we've got football for you, Baylor SMU to start the day, then followed by Pierre Governor Volleyball. We'll make sure that we start around the 2 o'clock time with a 2:30 first serve between Pierre and Mitchell. And then we'll have, after that, Missouri-Kansas. That rivalry gets renewed for the first time in a long time since Missouri left the Big 12 and went to the SEC. We'll have that game for you as well after Pierre Volleyball concludes. And then Sunday, we've got 3 NFL games once again for you, as it will be beginning with Pittsburgh Steelers and New York Jets, followed by the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. Gray Zabel's first regular season game will be heard here on KCCR. And then the Sunday night football game will be the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills to close out week 1 with Monday Night Football, which we'll have as well, being the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. That will be on KCCR Monday night to wrap up week 1. That's all upcoming here for the next couple of days. Glad you joined us for day 1 and show 1 of the 2025-26 season of Coach's Corner here on KCCR. Have a good rest of the night. We'll see you next Wednesday. Join us for Pierre Governor Volleyball tomorrow night here at 6:30 on KCCR.
You've been listening to Coach's Corner on KCCR, presented by the South Dakota Office of Attorney General, Division of Consumer Protection. Coach's Corner on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com is also brought to you by Bank West, Capital City Ford, Lincoln, and Toyota, Todd's Electric, Owyhee Federal Credit Union, Shane's Pharmacy, Missouri River Dentistry, CHS River Plains, Edward Jones Financial, Fording Electric, First Dakota National Bank, Gales Gas, and Lamb Motors. Join us each Wednesday at 5:30 on KCCR and online at kccrradio.com for more Coach's Corner. This has been a special presentation of Riverfront Broadcasting Sports, Central South Dakota's sports leader.